platforms right now. YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Instagram Live, TikTok Live, no matter the platform you're watching on, no matter where you are in this amazing world of ours, I hope you're having a great day. I hope your work week is going well. Hope everything on this Wednesday is off to a fantastic start. It is so wonderful to be with you. As you guys know, Butt Fumble Sports is your place for daily sports conversation, sports betting research, fantasy football advice, everything that a real sports fan needs to navigate these amazing times that we live in with sports betting, fantasy football, and obviously a lot of great sports topics to talk about every single day. If you're new to Butt Fumble Sports, make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you join us every time that we're live. If you want to see the screen that I'm going to be doing my research on in front of me that has my picks up on the screen, jump on over to YouTube. YouTube offers that view, as well as Twitch and Kick. If you're watching on Instagram Live, if you're watching on TikTok Live, more of a podcast style as you're going to see me on the screen. Make sure you hit the like button no matter where you're watching. Make sure, of course, you subscribe. We will be doing subscriber-only shows for fantasy football, I promise that. As I've mentioned, we have picks up on the board. These picks are actually already in on the SHARPZ app. We've actually already cashed on a number of our picks today. We had the under 8.5 and under 9.5 in the Royals and the Twins. Thank you very much. We had Royce Lewis getting a hit. We had Bobby Witt Jr. getting a hit. So off to a very strong start. We already have picks up on the board. I've already done all my research for the day. So if you have questions, we will answer them. Otherwise, we're going to be very heavily fantasy football focused. So if you have sports betting questions, feel free to ask them. We're going to answer your questions. We'll dive into research. We'll certainly help you out. But my picks are already up. I've already gone through the baseball day and slate, found my favorite plays. They're up on SHARPZ, and they're also up on my big board. Happy to share those with you as we go about the show. Make sure, again, that you put in your questions or your comments here for everything that you guys need. So make sure that you're engaging with us here for all of it. Appreciate you being with us on this Wednesday. Let's get started, everybody. Couple things I do want to note. Some hitters I really like for the day. Adolis Garcia in the Rangers and Red Sox game. Adley Rutschman in the Orioles game. Lane Thomas in the Guardians game. Justin Turner in the Mariners game. And Jose Altuve for the Astros. So those are some of the hitters I really like today. Whittington C10, what's good? 10-man half PPR league. What strategy would you do? Have the 10th pick, double up on running back? You know I would, especially if you find value there. It's harder and harder to find great running backs. Jonathan Taylor should be there at the 10th pick, so that's probably what I do. And then I would consider doubling up maybe Jonathan Taylor and Kyron Williams. I kind of like that duo. Evan Courtney, Cardinals or Reds? So interestingly enough, that's not a game that I bet today, so more than happy to dive into the research on this one for you. This game has a first pitch that's at 6:40 tonight. Right now, the market just favoring the Reds slightly on the money line market. 60% of the money is on the Reds compared to 55% of the public tickets. As for the spread, run line, it's favoring the Cardinals just a little bit. The under's getting a little bit more love. As I mentioned just a second ago, I actually didn't bet this game because of all the trends that I looked at earlier, nothing stood out. So maybe we'll find something now. Cardinals, they're coming off an away loss yesterday to the Reds. So far this year, 18-14 under that scenario. When they're on the road the following game, 14-11. Continuing to dive into it. I just want to look, they have a high total. The total is set at 9.5. When they have a total above 9 following an away loss, here's something to call out, Evan. So when the St. Louis Cardinals are following an away loss and the total is above 9 runs, Cardinals 3-0 and the under is 3-0. Interesting, I just mentioned a moment ago. Where's the market? Cardinals actually are favored at the -1.5. The run line, the Cardinals are getting a bit more love at -1.5. Interesting to note. And the under's getting more love. Let's drill on the under just a little bit. Not that I'm saying I love the under, but maybe the under allows us to take a different kind of look at how this game's going to necessarily play out. So I want to look at the starter on the other side of things. starter for the Reds in this one, Emilio Pagan. This is his first start this year. Maybe that's a reason we want to be a little bit cautious about him. First start of the season, Emilio Pagan in his career. He's only made one start in his career, so expecting an opener kind of situation, I guess. That's where we come out on that. How about Kyle Gibson? Kyle Gibson on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals. Over's been slightly better in his starts this year. Flatline even on straight up and on the run line. When he pitches on the road so far this year, 7-4 straight up, 7-4 on the run line. Again, Cardinals might be a slightly better play. That's what it appears to be thus far. As an away favorite, he won in the only start he had. It's a -108, so rather I want to make it, let's do it when it's less than or equal to -110. Other way around. So when Kyle Gibson pitches on the road and he has a line of -120 or less, 7-4, 7-4, okay. How about when he's pitching after a St. Louis Cardinals loss? Kyle Gibson following a loss, 7-5 straight up, 8-4 on the run line. When he pitches as a favorite after a Cardinals loss, the over is 3-1. Again, Evan, I'm not seeing any trends I really love. I probably lean maybe slightly towards the Cardinals. Let's take a look at the player prop bets. Maybe there's something from the game that we can dive into when it comes to history between the two pitchers. Or the lineups against the two pitchers, I should say. Emilio Pagan has dominated the St. Louis lineup. The St. Louis lineup, 5 hitters have faced him. None of them have a hit. Maybe that favors the underplay a little bit more. As for the Cincinnati Reds against Kyle Gibson, TJ Friedel, player we want to call out, Jake Fraley, he's hit him well. Based on the history, the Reds are the stronger play, actually. Based on the history of the lineups, not necessarily on the trends. Jake Fraley's a hitter I really like in this matchup. If we look at him, just over half a hit. He has good numbers against Gibson. Against right-handed pitching at home, has a hit in 8 of his last 9 games. So, Evan, I would say I probably lean for the moment right now on Reds plus 1.5, on the under slightly. I want to take the Cardinals on the money line, but the lineup history kind of fades it a little bit. But the play I really like out of all of it, Jake Fraley, over half a hit. Jake Fraley, over half a hit. I'm willing to put that up on the big board. I'm not going to bet this game, though. Again, just don't feel great about it. But Jake Fraley will make the big board just as a player that we really like. I'll even put the exclamation points next to him. So Jake Fraley, a player that we want to look into. Efrain, what's good? Efrain, Rain, Chris Olave, Drake London, and Puka in fantasy. I'll go London 1, Olave 2. I'll say Puka is going to be number 3. There's actually reasons for me to doubt Puka is going to have the kind of production he has last year. I actually think Puka maybe has a sophomore slump kind of season. Wouldn't shock me. K. Goodwin, 10-man PPR, 7th pick. Kyler Murray, Kyron Williams, Alvin Kamara, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, Kittle, Neighbors. K. Goodwin, that is not just a win. That is an A on the grade. That is a fantastic team. Kyler Murray, sleeper at quarterback. Kyron Williams could end up being a top 3, top 5 running back. Alvin Kamara as RB2 on your squad. Love it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he could be the best fantasy wide receiver this season. Mike Evans is maybe the most consistent wide receiver in the NFL over the past decade. He's a Hall of Famer. George Kittle, love him, especially if Brandon Ayuk's gone. If not, Kittle will have good numbers, but I think his numbers go up without Brandon Ayuk. Malik Neighbors as your 3rd wide receiver and in the flex. That is a dynamic flex player. I love the team, K. Goodwin. Home run hit right there. Love it. Royce Tooth. I'm drafting tomorrow in a 10-man PPR. First overall. CMC still your first pick overall. He is not anymore. It would be CeeDee Lamb for me. I think CeeDee Lamb is the first overall pick. But I'm also at a point where if you wanted to take Breece Hall, if you wanted to take even Bijan, I don't think Bijan's as good. I think Breece Hall should probably... But if you wanted to take a running back because you're like, I want to get my running back as the first overall, I think the injury to Christian McCaffrey is enough reason for him to slide in the first round. I would not have him as the first overall. Jack, what's good? Anita, Devontae, or Kelsey? I have Mahomes. Man, I don't like either one, to be honest. I think Kelsey's going to have a fine year, but I really actually don't want to double up on Mahomes and Kelsey. There are enough talented tight ends where if I had to pick between Devontae Adams and Travis Kelsey, I think I'd go Travis Kelsey. I don't want to buy into Devontae Adams. You're asking me to buy into Gardner Minshew. It's a decent division when it comes to cornerbacks. I just don't want to do it. I'm not going to take Devontae Adams. I wouldn't draft him. I would fade him. A lot of reasons. Unless Devontae Adams gets traded, I don't see how he's able to live up to the projected value this season with the quarterback in the situation he has. Joe Charles, rank Taylor, Barkley, and Kyren Williams. I'd go Jonathan Taylor. It's close. I'll go Jonathan Taylor 1, Kyren Williams 2, and Barkley 3, Joe. But, these are very close. I don't necessarily think they're a miss. I think this is one where we rank that today, but there's so many things that go into that. Some people are talking to me about Blake Corum for the Rams. I don't think that's going to impact Kyren Williams that much, but I put Barkley probably third because if the tush push takes away even 1 or 2 touchdowns, that would hurt his overall value. Ephraim, do you think Tank Dell or Nico will produce this year? Man, I'm actually not buying into the Texans offense in the same way. So many mouths to feed. I'm not crazy about drafting the wide receivers. Frankly, I probably like Nico Collins more than Tank Dell, but it's close. It's hard for me to get a sense of who's going to be the star. I think week to week, it's going to be a different player. It kind of reminds me of in years past when there were great offenses. There was one wide receiver who would have his day, and then the next guy would feast the next week, and you kind of get into a place where no one is dominating throughout the entirety of the year. Ricky, Keenan Allen or Stephon Diggs? Great question. If I had to go between the two, I'll say... Man, that's really close. I'll say Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen's probably going to get more targets overall. So I'll say Keenan Allen, but again, very close. Tyreek first overall. Personally, I wouldn't do it, but I understand. Oh, Oxman, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry we've done that to you. Maybe you should fade my picks then. Feel free to fade them. That's entirely up to you. Silky, Chase or Jefferson? I'd go Jamar Chase. The situation in Minnesota is getting more and more precarious by the moment. Obviously, the quarterback situation, you're relying on Sam Darnold throughout the entirety of the year. But even more so, sounds like Jordan Addison got hurt. It's not serious. But Minnesota, they're in tank mode before we've started the year. The Minnesota Vikings don't have enough talent. Their roster isn't good enough. And they have injuries that are just plaguing them before they even can get to week 1. I think they're going to be extremely cautious with Justin Jefferson this year. They've signed him long-term. They're not going to risk his long-term health in a year that means absolutely nothing. So I think Justin Jefferson will not play a full season. Even some weeks where he is questionable, he probably could have played in other years. He will be sat out because they will not want to risk it. I would not draft Justin Jefferson if I were you. Ephraim, I'm very high on DJ Moore. I actually think DJ Moore is going to be the number 1 fantasy player that comes out of the entire Bears roster. I think he's going to have a big season. Caleb Williams benefits him. Other weapons around him benefits him. And I don't think Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are going to take away from his targets enough to prevent DJ Moore from being a top 10 wide receiver. I actually think he's going to have a spectacular year. Ricky, I'm sorry, what was the question? Ricky, repeat your question. I'm worried about CD holding out and Breece if Rodgers gets injured again. Look, if you're going to be worried about players getting injured in football, don't play fantasy football. It's going to happen. Don't be a puss. Sack up and just it's going to happen. Players get injured. You're going to have to deal with it. You'll find players on the waiver wire. I would actually feel better about Rodgers staying healthier this year because the offensive line is better in New York. By the way, Breece Hall's in a better situation because did I mention the offensive line is better in New York? So better offensive line, better weapons as well, better wide receivers, which is only going to bring more attention to the receiving passing game, which is going to open up the running game for Breece Hall. Breece Hall is in a good opportunity. He's in a good division. The Miami Dolphins' run defense is worse this year. I don't know what the Patriots are right now, so maybe they're better defensively, maybe they're worse, but still, Breece Hall should be able to carve up any team he plays against. I think he's worthy of a first overall. If you're looking for a running back, Christian McCaffrey, his value has come down. On the other side of things, CeeDee Lamb's going to be playing week 1. I do not think CeeDee Lamb, the CBA, not CD, but the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement that the Players Association and the NFL owners agree upon, is so favorable towards the owners in getting players who are in contract disputes back on the field. If you're a player, you are not just not getting paid, you are getting fined. So you are getting taxed twice. CeeDee Lamb's going to play. It's one thing to hold out in the preseason, training camp. You don't want to do certain drills. You don't want to be out there in the heat. You don't want to be hitting, members of the Los Angeles Rams in August. But is CeeDee Lamb going to be playing week 1? Hell frickin' yeah. Maybe the Cowboys sign him. Maybe they don't. But he'll be playing for the Cowboys week 1 unless he's hurt. I guarantee you that. It won't be because of contract dispute. Kareem, Achane or Etienne? Great question. I'll say Etienne. I don't feel great about the answer. I feel like both are true RB2s on a fantasy squad. I'll say Etienne just because I know he's the running back 1 and that's set. Tank Bigsby may be becoming more of a threat over the course of the year. But Etienne, he's the primary receiving running back. He's going to be the number 1 rushing running back. Achane, a lot of mouths to feed in the Dolphins offense, especially in that backfield. Every time I think that he kind of owns that role, there's, Raheem Mostert right on his heels. So I like Etienne maybe just a little bit more. Courthouse, Richardson, Hall, Walker, Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Andrews, and the Cleveland defense. I really love the team. You're overloaded, unfortunately, on the Jets offense, though. If that's Garrett Wilson, which I'm assuming it is, the downgrade to your overall team is you're overloaded on the Jets offense. I don't hate it, but it is going to kind of negatively impact your squad overall. I'd give it a B+, but it's very close for me to being that A- team. Should I get Bijan or Chase at 5? I'd go Bijan. I think Bijan's the better play. And I have Jacobs, JT, Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Justin Jefferson, and I need to keep 2. I would probably actually keep Jonathan Taylor and Amon-Ra St. Brown. As much as Justin Jefferson sounds like a great play, I've mentioned his value goes down this year. Gibbs, the hamstring injury, does have me concerned. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is going to have a monster year, and Amon-Ra St. Brown I think is going to finish as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy this year, so I kind of like those two. That said, nice choices to be picking from overall. Appreciate you guys watching the show. Hope you guys are loving the content and the conversation. If you do, make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're with us every time that we're live. If you want any one of my bets every day, I give them away for free. DM me on Instagram, ButtFumble Sports, to get every one of my bets. And if you do want to focus on MLB, any of the bets today or our favorite plays for the day, just hit me up. Hit me up in the comment section. Happy to do some research for you. Parker Bledsoe over on YouTube. This is a good 10-man. Purdy, CMC, Josh Jacobs, CeeDee Lamb, MPJ, McBride, and Mike Evans. You're a little overloaded on the 49ers offense. I don't hate that. Again, it's not awful, but overall, your team's got some question marks. I give it a B+. I think it's probably a solid B+, but there's some players there that I actually do question. Luka, who do you like the most at 105? I'd probably say it's Breece Hall or Bijan. It's close. I'll say Breece Hall. Some people could talk me into Bijan in the PPR, but it's between those two. Amon-Ra St. Brown would be 3rd. Jamar Chase would be 4th. Monya, I like Gibbs. It looks like he's going to be okay, but hamstring injuries always concern me because those seem to last. Sometimes a break isn't the worst thing. Once it heals, you're good to go. But a hamstring's one of those where it seems to linger, so that's what has me a little bit wary about drafting Gibbs right now. Dean Wright, too. My running backs are Saquon, Pacheco, Montgomery. Good or no? Very, very good. And I really like that you got David Montgomery. David Montgomery's value has increased with Jahmyr Gibbs' injury. He is certainly someone who you could see getting value in the red zone, getting a lot of touchdowns. Even if Jahmyr Gibbs is healthy, he's a power back. So that said, I really like having him, even if it's just in a flex role. Dean Wright, too, really strong play. Are you going to be doing a fantasy draft today? Yes, we will. Are you guys ready? You guys want to jump into that already? We can. I'll make this a 10-man league. It's going to be a 10-man PPR league. This is going to be BFS 14. It's our 14th fantasy football league that we are going to be starting. So if you guys want to get in on this fantasy football league, DM me on Instagram right now. It is free to play, free to participate. It is a real league, everybody. So it's going to be a season-long league. Just be aware of that. If you want in, DM me on Instagram right now. Now's the time to get in on the league. Butt Fumble Sports on Instagram. DM me on Instagram, and you can get a link for the league. How do you feel about Justin Jefferson? Value has gone down. Don't feel good about him. I would not draft him. He is someone that I actually would avoid. I understand that a lot of people are going to go off of brand value, go off of like Madden ranking, go off of overall talent. It's about the situation that he's in. I just don't like his situation at all. So a reason for me to fade him. Ricky, Diggs or Allen was the question. I'm going to go Keenan Allen, I think just barely. It really is a function of does he stay healthy? And maybe if you're concerned about health, it's Diggs. But if both are healthy the entirety of the year, I think Keenan Allen gets more targets. I think Keenan Allen is going... I mentioned this a couple of days ago. The way I think the Bears are going to operate is I think DJ Moore is going to be the downfield threat. I think Keenan Allen is going to be kind of by the first down marker receiver. I think that means he gets a lot of targets. May not get as many big passing yard plays or as many touchdowns necessarily as DJ Moore, but I certainly think he has value. Stephon Diggs, I don't know where he fits in that offense overall, so I'm a bit more cautious to invest in him until I see it. I understand that could backfire, especially with Keenan Allen's injury history. Luke, Breece Hall, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, first three picks. Do you like him? Not really. I'm not high on Devontae Adams, and I'm not high on Deebo Samuel. Love the Breece Hall pick, but the two wide receivers you went with are not what I'd go with. Trade Moore for Christian Kirk. No. I am not on Christian Kirk this year. I know he was the number one wide receiver for Trevor Lawrence last year, but I could see him actually losing that favorability this year. Brian Thomas looking really good. I also understand that Gabe Davis has looked good in camp, so Christian Kirk could have a solid year, but no, I would not trade DJ Moore for Christian Kirk. I'd hold on to DJ Moore. Joe, pick two wide receivers. I'd go DJ Moore, and I'll lean towards Waddle. And again, it's just because Nico Collins is in an offense where there's so many mouths to feed. He might lose out on some targets where Waddle, I think he's going to get plenty of targets. Opinion on Mixon. I like Mixon as an RB2. I really like him as a third running back, as the guy who you could swap in on certain weeks. I think he's going to be a good touchdown option. Anytime touchdown, Joe Mixon could be a good play. Between the 20s, I think it's going to be through the air between the 20s for the Texans. In the red zone, you might see them play bully ball a little bit with Joe Mixon. If you want to get in on this 10-man fantasy football draft, it's a real league, no league fees, but if you want to participate, DM me on Instagram, Butt Fumble Sports. That's my handle on Instagram. DM me if you want to participate in this 10-man PPR league. The moment we fill up the league, we draft. So if you want to get in on it, DM me on Instagram right now. AJ, who should I pick at 10 in that swing around at 110 and then 2-1? I really like a combination of running backs like a Jonathan Taylor and Kyron Williams, pairing those two together. If you're looking for a wide receiver in that second round pick, I think Garrett Wilson's a good place to go. John wants to get in on it. John, what's good? We've got someone else. Michael Mack wants to join the league. Michael Mack, what's good? If you want to join the league, DM me on Instagram. Michael Mack just hit me up, wanted to join. Welcome to the Butt Fumble Sports community, Michael. Miles, Kyron Williams, or MHJ at pick 15. I'd go Kyron Williams. Couple of reasons here. One, running back is more valuable. Two, I think he is going to finish as a top 5 running back this year. I know there are a few that are concerned about Blake Corum's value. I think that's a bit overhyped. I think Kyron Williams is going to have a monster year. And finally, MHJ, I think is going to have a really good year, but at pick 15, a little bit early for me, given the uncertainty around his true value. Appreciate you guys joining the show. Drew just hit me up. He wants to join the draft. Steve Harmon, I saw Steve just followed me on Instagram. Steve, appreciate you being a follower. And here's a link to our draft if you want to get in on this 10-man PPR league. Again, we do fantasy football leagues, and we draft them almost every single day. We do them on Rival Fantasy. Last year, Rival Fantasy actually paid out for the winners of our leagues. I don't know if they're going to do that this year. Knock on wood, we hope. That said, we had a lot of fun last year. We did 40 leagues last year. You heard that right, 40 leagues. This is our 14th this year, working our way. I would love to get to 100. Thoughts on Olave? Very high on him. Chris Olave is extremely talented. I feel like people are overlooking him because of the Saints, maybe because of Derek Carr, maybe because he's just not as flashy. But Chris Olave is the real deal. The only time last year where he really didn't put up any value are the weeks that he was suffering from a concussion. Week in, week out, when healthy, Chris Olave has been phenomenal. Right now, I'm noticing for a lot of people, he's being drafted as their wide receiver 1, or in some cases, wide receiver 2. I think he's a wide receiver 1 for sure, so I have a lot of faith in his value. Nick, trade Tank Dell for Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans probably ends up having the better year, but because of what you're saying, I almost want to see if you could just add a kicker. See if you could add another piece. Mike Evans plus, just throw anybody in there and see if they go for it. I'd be curious. If you want to get in on this fantasy football league, DM me on Instagram right now. 8 spots filled, 2 spots to go. If you want to get in on it, make sure you grab one of the slots while you can. Jack, are Sutton and Javonte Williams good to keep, or are they players to trade away? I don't want anything to do with the Denver Broncos offense. They don't have a quarterback. There's a lot of uncertainty around that team overall. So for that and so many other reasons, Jack, I would trade them. Look, Courtland Sutton is incredibly talented, but I don't like the offensive line in Denver. I don't like the quarterback in Denver. I just have a lot of question marks. People are trying to sell me on Bo Nix being the future of the Denver Broncos. Maybe he will be, but from a fantasy standpoint, I can't trust him or the Broncos offense overall. I actually would try to make those trades. I don't think you're going to get a ton of value back, but maybe depending. I hope for your sake you got a Denver fan in your league. Maybe they'll overpay. Opinion on having Tyreek and Waddle, would not do it. Would not do it. That's a stacking I wouldn't do, because those are two teammates where I feel like the weeks where they both go off, one of them goes off enough where it's enough to win. I actually don't like having both of them. I do think that's one where it cannibalizes the value of that second wide receiver spot. So, are we high on Pickens now that Ayuk is staying in San Francisco? Certainly higher. I think Pickens, if he were a stock, he was high. He dipped a little bit yesterday around the rumors of Ayuk going to Pittsburgh, and now he's risen again. And the only reason around that is I want the targets. You guys you're going to hear this word from me a lot. I want targets. The more times George Pickens is targeted, the greater chance he has of having a big day. I think that's really important also in the Steelers' offense, because they're not a high-flying offense. Maybe they throw down the field a couple times, but Arthur Smith, he's just not that kind of guy. So even though they've changed from the offensive coordinator last year, I don't expect this to be an Andy Reid-style offense anyways. I still think they're going to use their running backs quite frequently, so my expectation is George Pickens will need those extra targets to bring that additional value for fantasy owners. We have 1 slot left for our fantasy league. If anyone wants to join, DM me on Instagram right now. Butt Fumble Sports, there's 1 spot left. 1 spot left for this 10-man PPR Rival Fantasy League. Get in on it while you can. Ryan, start Dak or Jaden Daniels in a PPR? Start. It's a very week-to-week decision. I'll just say this. Week 1, Dak's going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. I'd probably start Jaden Daniels, believe it or not, in Week 1. That doesn't mean I'm in love with him as my starting quarterback throughout the year, but between those two for Week 1, Dak Prescott, maybe not the guy you want to go with. Is Jefferson value go higher if Addison gets in trouble with DUI? I don't think Justin Jefferson's value changes. I think Justin Jefferson's value is in a very precarious place to begin with. We have filled up this 10-man league. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. We are going to organize the draft now. We are going to make this a 30 seconds per pick. 30 seconds per pick. We are going to start this draft at 5:10, everybody. Draft starts at 5:10, and the draft order has been randomized. So we will start this draft in 3 minutes. 3 minutes, everybody, until we start the draft. Until then, a reminder for all those folks out there that are looking for my baseball picks. I do MLB research every day to find the best picks based on trends, data, analytics, matchups, weather, umpires, whatever we can get our hands on. DM me on Instagram. Butt Fumble Sports is my handle, as I mentioned before. Butt Fumble Sports. DM me on Instagram. I give away all my picks for free. They're never behind a paywall. I never charge for them. You can follow them. You can fade them. That's up to you. But make sure you guys DM me on Instagram to get a hold of that. Where does Justin Jefferson sit now with the QB situation? I wouldn't draft him. Nick, Bijan, Garrett Wilson, then Henry. I actually really like that. Nick, I think that's a pretty good start to your draft. What's a good late round running back? Really late, Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. Keep your eye on him. Logan, I have never seen your page before, but that name gets an instant follow from me. Logan, welcome to the Butt Fumble Sports community. Thoughts on Malik Neighbors? Look, I think he is extremely talented. I actually think he's worth a draft pick if he falls. My problem is, one, too many New York Giant fans out there who are going to overvalue him. Second, Daniel Jones as his quarterback. I think Malik Neighbors is a solid wide receiver too. I think he is an outstanding flex play. But if you tell me he's a wide receiver 1, I have my doubts. Don't think so. Luke, who should be the top options at the 6th pick overall in a 6-man draft? Wow, 6-man draft, 6th pick overall. Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are the first 3 players that come to mind. Especially get 2 of them on that loop around. Appreciate you guys being with us. We're going to start this draft in about a minute. As we do the draft, I'll continue to answer questions. And of course, I'll kind of talk through everything that we're doing in the draft. Drew, how do you feel about DK and Amari Cooper? I'm very high on both of them. High target guys. They're clear number 1s on their team. And even though Deshaun Watson and Geno Smith aren't necessarily quarterbacks I believe in, Amari Cooper and DK are so consistent that I actually believe in them more than Justin Jefferson, for example. I'm not saying Justin Jefferson won't have better numbers. I'm saying who do I have confidence in more given a bad quarterback situation? It's actually DK. It's actually Amari. Amari Cooper especially, high volume guy when it comes to targets and receptions. High reliability on him. If you are watching over on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, feel free to get your questions in. Happy to answer all of your questions, no matter the platform you're watching on. I want everyone to feel like they have a voice, that they can be heard. Now, I will admit, we do have subscriber-only shows on TikTok. Those are for people who want a lot of exclusive focus on their particular team. So make sure you subscribe on TikTok, because we will do subscriber-only shows. That's where I'm like going by position to start or sit players on your squad. For the most part, we do kind of rapid fire on these shows for everybody. The draft is ready to get going. We are starting this draft, everybody. The draft is underway. So a 10-man PPR draft. Christian McCaffrey, first player off the board. Bit of a surprise, because I have been saying now over the course of the show, Christian McCaffrey is not my first overall pick. I would not draft him 1 overall. I do think that's a bit of a mistake. Breece Hall just came off the board next. Very interesting. A run on running back to start the show. CeeDee Lamb is still on the board at 3 overall. I'm going to do it. Normally I'd go to running back, but if CeeDee Lamb's going to fall to number 3, I'll take CeeDee Lamb at 3. So Christian McCaffrey goes 1, Breece Hall goes at number 2, CeeDee Lamb goes number 3. Bijan Robinson goes at number 4. I was thinking about Bijan, but I was willing to take the number 1 wide receiver overall. Tyreek Hill goes 5. So this draft is a reflection on running back going early. Maybe that's a sign of how things are going to go in your draft. Braden, I got 10 in a 10-man league, got Barkley and Taylor. Is that the right move? Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Taylor's a fantastic move. You could have gone Barkley or Kyren Williams, and I would have been ecstatic. Great draft for you, Braden. Good job. By the way, no problem. All good. How do I feel about Zeke? Maybe as like a lottery ticket running back in late round play. If he is going to be running back number 1 for the Cowboys, hey, maybe there's some value there. So maybe you could talk me into drafting him, but it would be the ultimate lottery ticket. So after we had 3 running backs go in the first 4 picks, we've had 4 wide receivers go in a row. Tyreek Hill at pick number 5, Jamar Chase at pick number 6, Amon-Ra St. Brown at pick number 7, Justin Jefferson at pick number 8. Now back-to-back running backs, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Kyren Williams. John, listening very intently, does exactly what I recommended. Jonathan Taylor and Kyren Williams at picks 10 and 11 in that turnaround. Appreciate you guys being with us. Wilson will be better than A.J. Brown. I think so. I actually do like Wilson maybe slightly more. Part of it has to do with a lot more mouths to feed, I think, in the Eagles' offense. That may take away from A.J. Brown just a little bit. Luis Gonzalez, Breece Hall or Bijan first overall. I'm going to lean towards Breece. It's super close, but I'll lean towards Breece Hall for now. Devontae Adams comes off the board as the second pick of the second round. Interesting. Wilson at 10 over A.J. Dean, it would be for me. Does Jamar Chase not practicing scare you? No. If it were injury-based, maybe, but because it's contract-based, not at all. Wilson goes next. A.J. Brown goes next. Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a first-round pick for many of the drafts we've done so far, just went at the 5th pick of the second round. So that gives you guys a bit of an indication. Jahmyr Gibbs maybe falling a full round from around the 5th, 6th, 7th pick of the first round to middle second round, at least in the draft we're doing right now. Kind of interesting to track his value, see where he falls. Travis Etienne just came off the board. I need a running back. Don't love the running backs that are still up there. I'll take Isaiah Pacheco because I need a running back, and he's my favorite of the guys up there. But frankly, I'm not. This is why you take a running back in the first round. A lot of running backs off the board. We had 5 running backs go off the board in the first round, 4 off the board so far in the second round. So 9 running backs gone. Once you fall outside that top 10 of running backs, it's tricky, everybody. That's why if there is any way that you can secure 2 of the top 10, 2 of the top 12 running backs in fantasy, that is what's going to make you a successful team. 1.04 in a 10-man. Who you aiming for? Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson. Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson. If somehow those 2 are gone, maybe CeeDee Lamb. That's what I ended up doing at 3 overall. But those are certainly some things you want to keep your eye on. Okay. CeeDee Lamb was my first pick. Isaiah Pacheco was number 2. I like Drake London at the number 3. I don't love the running back options right now. I understand they're only going to get worse over time. I'll take Josh Jacobs. I really want to take Drake London, but I'll take Josh Jacobs as the 3rd pick of the 3rd round. T. Melch just took Drake London. That's a great pick, T. Melch. I wanted Drake London. That's your first wide receiver. Really good pick. T. Melch is building a hell of a team right after me. Bijan, Travis Etienne, and Drake London. T. Melch, you're doing a great job. Breece Hall or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Johnny, I'd go Breece Hall. Big Jake, is CMC number 1 overall? Not for me anymore. Jonathan, the king is back. Appreciate the kind words. Great to have you with us. I hope you guys know I love giving you guys this advice. I do my research. I study up throughout the entirety of the week to give you the most information I possibly can to help you out, hopefully to get you to a fantasy win each week and hopefully a fantasy championship at the end of the season. That's what our goal is. Is Hill number 2 overall? Not for me. Who do you have as number 1 overall? It's either CeeDee Lamb or Breece Hall at this point. You think I should trade Devontae and Marvin Harrison Jr. for A.J. Brown? Hell no. Hell no. Michael Hayes, Barkley and Wilson at 9 and 12. Love it, love it, love it, Michael Hayes. Really strong, really strong. Jefferson or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Luka is no question in my mind. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not even a question. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown could finish this year as the #1 fantasy wide receiver. I am very high on him. Appreciate you guys watching the show. Make sure you hit the like button no matter the platform you're watching on. Make sure you hit the like button. We really appreciate the support that you guys show us across all of our platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. Walt Grizzly, who would you take at number 2 overall? It would either be Breece Hall or CeeDee Lamb. One of those two. Bijan would be the third, but because it's the number 2 pick, I don't think you need the third option there. Jacob, is there anyone above Brock Purdy I should pick up from the waiver wire? I don't know the waiver wire yet. We'll have to talk about that. We're a couple weeks away from really understanding where the waiver wire sits. Who did you take as an 8th pick in a PPR? Amon-Ra St. Brown is really appealing to me. Jonathan Taylor's another one. And then it's a question of who's fallen. Who should be in the top 5 who's fallen out? Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey at number 8, I'd absolutely do that. So whoever falls from the 5, but if there isn't someone who falls, again, Bijan, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jonathan Taylor in that order. Why not Tyreek at 2? Frankly, because I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be a better fantasy wide receiver this year, and I think Breece Hall has more value. So I think both of them are going to have better years. That's the real reason why. Okay, time for me to make a pick. I have 2 running backs. I have Pacheco. I have Josh Jacobs, but I'm so concerned about my running back situation. I'm going to take a third. I am going to take a bit of a flyer here, and I say that, and Michael Pittman Jr. is staring me in the face. I can't skip on him. I'm such a big fan. I love Michael Pittman Jr. this year. I was thinking about taking another running back, a third running back, but instead, I'm going to go wide receiver in the 4th round. So far my team is Isaiah Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Pittman Jr. Solid team. I give it a B right now. Hopefully, I'm working it towards a B+, but there are some question marks here, so I got to continue to build this squad. Mark Andrews just came off the board. Kind of interesting there. Normally, in round 5, which is the round we're in now, I'm getting a third wide receiver or I'm getting a third running back. But I'm looking at how this board is going, and tight end, 3 tight ends off the board, and I really like Dalton Kincaid. I don't think Dalton Kincaid makes it to the 6th round where I am. I don't love the running backs that are available. I don't love the wide receivers. I'm willing to take Dalton Kincaid and kind of fill out my starting lineup. T. Melch, who follows me, takes Trey McBride. T. Melch is building... T. Melch, if you follow us, you are building one of my favorite teams. You are building a team that I would draft myself. Bijan Robinson, Etienne, Drake London, Mike Evans, and Trey McBride. Great starting 5. My starting 5 right now are Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Pittman Jr., and Dalton Kincaid. Make sure you hit that like button, everybody. Vince Ochoa, great to see you. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're hitting that like button and supporting the show. Make sure you share the channel as well. If there's a fantasy football fan in your life, let them know about Butt Fumble Sports. I know you want to have the exclusive edge on all this fantasy advice, but be a mensch. Give out the gift of fantasy advice today. Is Bijan a 5 in a 10-man league? Not a stretch. Love the pick. Feel like he could even go higher. You think I should trade CeeDee Lamb for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Pittman Jr.? Hell yes, Ryder. If you can do that, absolutely jump on it. Gina, how do I pick my team? My friend's doing a draft in 2 weeks. She told me do a lot of research. Any help? Gina, first things first, make sure you follow us and make sure you join us for all of our shows. Here's what I would do, Gina. In the first 2 rounds, I would get 2 running backs. The 2 best running backs you can get. I'll talk throughout the show some of my favorites. In rounds 3 and 4, draft the 2 best wide receivers. So you have 2 running backs, then 2 wide receivers. Those positions are the most important. You need to get the most production out of those 4 spots in order to win your league. In round 5, Normally, I like to take the best running back or wide receiver available, but depending on how your league plays out, if tight end becomes a very popular pick like it was in mine that I'm doing right now, maybe you want to take a running back, a tight end in round 5. But you could get tight end value later in the draft. So round 5, round 6, wide receiver and running back, you could get a third of each because having depth at those positions, never a bad thing. Tight end, from rounds 5 to rounds 9, probably get a tight end. That's where there's going to be good value. After that, you're taking a bit of a flyer on people. It's not awful. Same thing for quarterback. Don't draft a quarterback too early. Don't draft a tight end too early. If you're drafting a quarterback or a tight end in the first 4 rounds, I think you're making a mistake. If you do it in the 5th round, okay, maybe a little early, but I can justify it. So Gina, round 1, running back. Round 2, running back. Round 3, wide receiver. Round 4, wide receiver. Round 5, best running back or best wide receiver, unless there's been a run on tight end, then take the best tight end available. After that, you're kind of playing position by position. Cole Blythe. Oh, I got to make my pick. Forgive me. One moment. I'm going to finish out my squad. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson at the quarterback. Too early for that. I took him a round too early, but I've got some options here on the turnaround. Cole, starting running backs are Walker and Najee Harris. It's okay. You don't have a true RB1, though. Tyreek Hill, Harrison, DK got offered Saquon for Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like that's a deal worth making. I understand why you may regret it because of Saquon's health over the course of the year, but you need an RB1. Saquon's an RB1. I would have drafted Saquon ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. So Cole, I actually think it's a good trade. It also turns Najee Harris into a flex play or a backup running back. I think that's a good spot. I think it's a good trade, Cole. Ryder, then my wide receiver, Cole, will be Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae, Marvin Harrison. Really, really solid. Really solid. Okay, I've got the chance to take a third running back or a third wide receiver. I've talked about George Pickens quite a bit. He's certainly available and interesting to me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take George Pickens. I don't love the pick, but I like it enough. He doesn't have a bye week issue. By the way, Gina, be aware of buys. Anyone who's new to fantasy football or maybe overlooking this, be aware of bye week issues. What's the most important part of research? It actually is about understanding bye weeks and understanding schedules. So look at the first month of the year. This is something I would highly recommend you guys do. Look at the first month of the season. Who has really favorable matchups? You may be surprised at how a fantasy season goes. The teams that get off to a fast start, they can then play the waiver wire from October on. But if you draft someone who has a good matchups in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, that may give you the kind of early season edge where, again, you can then play waiver wire to maybe replace that player once their schedule gets a little bit trickier. So I would highly recommend do your research on bye weeks and do your research on early season matchups. What do you care about the matchup in November? You care about the first few weeks because the guys you draft are probably going to be in your lineup weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. If they aren't in good matchups, why start them? Maybe that means why draft them. Here's an example. Do we really like Dak Prescott against the Cleveland Browns in week 1? Maybe he's not worth drafting because he's probably going to be available later in the year if he has a couple bad weeks. Bijan or Breece Hall, I'd go Breece Hall. How do you feel about Bryce Young this year? Second easiest schedule, yeah. But who's he throwing to and how much faith do I have in the offensive line? I'm still not going to buy Breece Hall. If you want to take a flyer on him, he's going to be available on the waiver wire. So you don't need to draft him. There's plenty of time to be able to pick him up and put him on your team. Braden, by the way, I love disagreements. I don't believe I'm infallible by any means. I've done this for a long time, so that's why I believe in my convictions. But Braden says completely disagree about bye weeks. If you have a tank week, then oh well, better players matter. Interesting. The reason I don't agree with you is because no player is so consistent that they never have a dud week. So I have a dud bye week and I have a week in which they underperform. All of a sudden, I'm in a bit of a precarious position because they're not delivering enough value for me over the course of the year. I need a certain average number of points per week in order to be successful. I understand you want the most points you possibly can get, but the bye week is a negative, and then you're going to have at least 2, 3, 4 weeks out of the season where they just underperform. So the bye weeks tacked onto that, I'm now living with 4 or 5 weeks where they're underperforming. That's why I make I go with the strategy I do. But Braden, I'm curious to know, what's your angle on it? By the way, would love to have the conversation. If you want to join as a guest, hit us up on TikTok. Join as a guest. Get in on the conversation. Would love to talk to you about it. Would love to go head to head on it. So just hit us up. More than happy to have the conversation live on the air. I think I just got a steal in the 9th round. I needed a third running back. I gone a little bit heavy on wide receiver. I picked up a third wide receiver in Pickens in the 7th round, a fourth wide receiver in Terry McLaurin in the 5th round, in the 8th round, and I needed a third running back, Devin Singletary. He's going to be RB1 for the Giants. Their offensive line is slightly improved. Certainly their passing game will be improved, which is going to help lessen the pressure on the running game. I think Devin Singletary is a good third running back to own. JJ or St. Brown, user 57, Amon-Ra St. Brown. How do you feel about the Texans wide receiver trio? I think they're going to cannibalize the production of each other. I think the targets are going to be hard to figure out for a while. I really like Nico Collins. I really like Tank Dell. I don't know how Diggs fits into the offense in terms of how it impacts their overall value. So I'm not buying into that offense, though it's going to be an amazing offense. Is Sam Laporta worth a first 4-round pick? I don't think so. I've seen some people draft him in the 4th round. I think he could ultimately have that kind of value, but for me, there are other players on the board I'd rather go with. Given there are other tight ends, I also think who could have decent production this year. So the fall off at other positions, Sam Laporta, if at the earliest it's round 4, but really it's round 5 for me. At round 5, I'd consider him a strong pick. Danny, pick 12. What 2 running back do you think are going to be there? I think Kyron Williams will probably be there. If Saquon's there, those would be the 2. You think I should try to hold on to Jahmyr Gibbs or trade him? I'd hold on to him. I don't think it's worth trading him right now. No. Because if nothing else, his values come down. That is selling stock on the day that it's plummeted. Like, sell him in a week when there's at least some speculation that he might be back for week 1. Don't sell him when there's speculation that his value's gone down. What's your thoughts on Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels? Better pick. Well, from a football standpoint, I think both of them landed in the perfect situation. I think Caleb Williams is going to be the best passing quarterback in Bears history. Now, I know that's a low bar, but I'm willing to put the flag in at the top of that mountain. I think Caleb Williams will be the greatest passing quarterback in Chicago Bears history. He was the best pick for them. Jaden Daniels was the best pick for the Commanders. He was better than Drake May. He can run. He's got amazing accuracy. I think people are overlooking his arm talent. In terms of fantasy, I might actually like Jaden Daniels a little bit more, and it's because what he can do with his legs. Fantasy value at quarterback increases if they can just get a rushing touchdown every now and then. Jaden Daniels more likely to do that, so I'll go Jaden Daniels, slightly more fantasy value, though it's very, very close. What puts Laporta higher than McBride or Kincaid? It's the offense that he's playing in. Give me 1 second. I'm going to make a quick pick. Just took Xavier Worthy, one of my lottery ticket wide receivers. What makes him higher? So I think a couple of things. One, I've mentioned this before. The Detroit Lions played just 3 outdoor games all season long. So he's going to play on a fast track with an offense that performs incredibly well historically when on turf and and playing in a dome. So his offense is going to be superior to the Arizona Cardinals and to the Buffalo Bills. I also think Sam Laporta is a better tight end than Dalton Kincaid and McBride. I love McBride. I love Kincaid. But I think Sam Laporta, he is the heir apparent to the best tight end title in the league once Travis Kelce gives it up, in my opinion. Nick, favorite mid-round wide receiver and running back. Mid-round running back? Devin Singletary's in that conversation. I got him in round 9. That's a pretty good round to get him. Those that come maybe a little bit earlier, Alvin Kamara is a decent one in round 6 if you could get him there. And as for wide receiver, George Pickens, I got him in round 7. Terry McLaurin in round 8. A lot of the players I just drafted kind of fit into the question you're asking. Pick 4, who do I want? Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson? Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson? Appreciate you guys joining us. Hope you guys are loving the content and conversation. Caden, Henry or Pacheco? Oof. I'm going to shock some folks. I'm going to say Pacheco. And for me, it's because, 1, I think Lamar Jackson may take away a little bit of the value from Derrick Henry. 2, he won't get as many carries as he did in Tennessee. 3, what's the future of Keaton Mitchell? Does he get some more carries? I think Pacheco might get actually some more touches than Derrick Henry, so I'll give him the extra value. Brian, I have A.J. Brown at 2.09. Who do I take at 1.04? I would take Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson. Who should I get with pick 15? Is Kyron Williams still available? Pick 15 of this draft, Jahmyr Gibbs was selected. A.J. Brown came 1 pick before. Garrett Wilson 2 picks before. Marvin Harrison Jr. All of those players I think are solid picks around that point. Pick 8, Amon-Ra St. Brown at pick 8 would be a great pick. Do I stack Debo and McCaffrey? I'm not, but if you want to, fine. Not something I'm necessarily going to do. Where do you prefer to draft in a 12 or a 14-man league? Either at 4 or at 8. 4 or 8. I don't want to be on the extreme ends. I want to be a little bit closer to the middle. 4 allows me to get a top-tier running back. 8 still means I probably get an RB1, but I'm going to get the benefit of the turnaround between rounds 1 and round 2. So pick number 4 or pick number 8. Because when we're talking about where do you want to be, it's really about the early rounds. Once you get to round 6 and on, then we're just all in a snake draft and we're just going. But rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4, I do think there is positional value in where you're located in the snake order. Ayuk staying with the 49ers? It sounds like he is. A lot of people are trying to talk us into a Steelers move. Sounds like he's going to be staying. Cole Kmet's an interesting... Cole Kmet and Luke Musgrave were 2 tight ends that I really liked last year at draft time. And it's kind of interesting because people aren't talking about them anymore. And just from a tight end perspective, I'm seeing TJ Hawkinson drafted ahead of Cole Kmet, ahead of Luke Musgrave. Kind of interesting. All NFC North tight ends. Hawkinson's coming off a severe injury. Cole Kmet in a great offense. Maybe he gets fewer targets, but he's been a really solid tight end for the Bears. Meanwhile, Luke Musgrave, I think Luke Musgrave actually could be a tight end who plays above his draft value. I think he really fits into the Packers offense. I really like what he can deliver. So keep your eye on Luke Musgrave. Again, it's going to be a late draft pick. He's not going to be like a top 7th round or 8th round pick. It's going to be in rounds 12, 13, 14, 15. But Luke Musgrave is definitely a tight end that's like, just keep your eye on it. There's some value there. By the way, we were talking about draft strategy earlier. I'm willing to take a defense in round 13 as the earliest round I'm willing to take a defense. I won't take a defense earlier than that. So as a reminder to you guys, I go running back and wide receiver in the first 4 rounds, get 2 of each. In round 5, I usually like to get either a third running back or a third wide receiver, depending on the best players on the board. Unless there's been a run on tight end, then I may consider a tight end, but usually I go tight end round 6 or round 7. Then I will consider a quarterback around that same spot, round 6, 7, 8. And then I'm filling out the depth of my team. I always like to draft a couple rookie wide receivers. Rookie wide receivers are lottery tickets. Some of them may turn out to be wide receiver ones on their squad. Look at Zay Flowers last year. Xavier Worthy could become that guy this year. Ladd McConkey could be that guy this year. Malik Neighbors could be that guy this year. So rookie wide receivers, take a couple of them. They're worth the risk. Rookie running backs, they usually hit a wall because they're not used to the length of an NFL season. Wide receiver doesn't usually have that same problem. So rookie wide receivers, get a couple of them late in a draft. As for the late draft strategy, round 13, 14, 15, I'd get a defense in round 13, 14. I'd probably get my kicker in round 15. I wouldn't go early on the kicker. I would not go early on the kicker. If I've learned anything at this point, the difference between a kicker, number 1 kicker, and a number 3 kicker, or 5 kicker, or 7 kicker, isn't enough for you to win your league. It may be enough to win a week or two, but not enough to win your league. Thon Maker, 8-man, should trade Jamar for Bijan and Neighbors. Yes, get Bijan and Neighbors if you can. That's a great trade for you. I'm in a 10-man PPR keeper. I'm keeping Bijan at 210 and McBride at 5-1. I also have a first pick. Nick Rad, you're killing it. Love the squad. Love the squad. Logan, thoughts on A.J. Brown and Saquon on the same team. Also thoughts on Jacobs. I'm not crazy about A.J. Brown this year. I don't think he's awful. I'm not as high on it. I don't think it's a terrible move, Logan, because I think the Eagles will be a great offense, but probably not where I would have necessarily gone. Thoughts on Josh Jacobs? I drafted him as a running back 2, RB2. I think it's a good pick. If you're looking for him to be your RB1, maybe a little bit of concern. Nova picks. Astros on the money line. Nova picks. I don't know about the Dodgers. but Astros on the money line, yes, yes, yes. Do you think Chubb can provide some late season production? I do, Michael. I actually think he's worth the risk. Oh, I just had an auto pick. Oops. I was too focused on talking to you guys. It accidentally took Justin Herbert for me, which isn't terrible, actually. It's a backup quarterback for Anthony Richardson. Not terrible. Not who I would have selected at all because he's got a shit team around him, but, you know. Quentin Johnston. What a disappointment. Quentin Johnston may be one of the great disappointments of the last few years. One of the great busts. Terrence. Who do I draft first 2 rounds, 10th spot? I've talked about it a lot. Jonathan Taylor, Kyren Williams. Jonathan Taylor, Kyren Williams. Those would be 2. Saquon Barkley would be a 3rd. Eli, what does the ideal draft look like in the first 4 rounds? Oh, for 4 overall in a 12-man league. Getting Bijan in the first round. Having a good running back fall to you in the 2nd round. Having a good wide receiver fall to you in the 3rd round. You know, it becomes about that. Nova, no Dodgers, but I like the Astros. Nova picks, I like the Astros money line. I don't know about the Dodgers, though. Keep Justin Jefferson in the 4th or Nico in the 17th. Wow. I'll say Justin Jefferson in the 4th. Sonny, Dweck, Gibbs, or Taylor? I'd go Jonathan Taylor. Username, Dynasty, would you trade Drake for Jordan Addison and a first? No, I would not. No, I would not. No, I would not. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're with us every time that we're live. We do have picks available. We have MLB picks that are up on the SHARPZ app. If any of you guys want any of our picks, DM me on Instagram. We give away our picks for free every day. But Fumble Sports. We talk sports. We do sports betting research. We talk fantasy sports. So whatever you guys want to cover, we're here doing exactly that every single day. Make sure you follow. Mike Evans over Debo. Mike Evans over Debo, at least for me. Ernie, how would you run through the first 5 draft picks? First 5 draft picks for me would be Breece Hall, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, no, that's not right. What would I do, or what am I seeing? What would I do? I'd probably go Breece Hall 1, CeeDee Lamb 2, Bijan 3, Tyreek 4, Christian McCaffrey 5. Who's better, Pacheco or Kyren Williams? I'll say Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams is the better pick. Texas Tejano, great to see you again. 10-team, full PPR. I have the first overall. Am I crazy for passing on CMC and taking CeeDee Lamb? Not crazy at all. Good idea. CeeDee Lamb in the first overall is not a bad idea. Appreciate you guys being with us. Nova, really happy to have you joining us and following the show. Make sure you do follow. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're with us every day. D. Graham in a 10-man PPR, Pacheco or Achan. I'd say Pacheco. I have a little bit more faith in him being a true RB1 for the Chiefs than Achan, who's got to contend with Raheem Mostert in that crowded backfield. JJ Sportstar, what are your thoughts on Malik Neighbors this year? I think he's a good wide receiver 2. Not super high on him, though, as a wide receiver 1. Daniel Jones is throwing him the football. I always have my questions about that. CN22, do you think CD gets his contract? I think he will eventually, yeah. I think he does. And I think it's in part because I don't think Jerry Jones can afford to not have him. I think Jerry Jones is in a terrible position. He wants to win now. He doesn't have the assets to trade, to rebuild. He's got to invest in the team he has. He can't try to build for the future. He may not be around for the team of the future. D. Graham, 10-man PPR. I'd go DK over Devontae. DK over Devontae Smith. Harris, 12-team half PPR, 4th pick. I'd go Breece Hall. If he's not there, I'd go Bijan. First, and in the second round, I'd go another running back. It just depends on who falls. Appreciate you guys being with us. I'm going to sign off now, but I will be back later. I'm going to do a subscriber-only show tonight. So if you want fantasy football advice, join us on TikTok later tonight. It's going to be a subscriber-only show. Yes, we do subscriber-only shows, and those are so we answer your questions and give you personal attention. During these shows for everybody, we kind of rapid fire. We go as fast as we can. But for the subscriber-only shows, we take our time and we focus on your team because if you're contributing to the channel, we want to give you that kind of personal attention. So make sure you subscribe to Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok. Hit that subscriber button. We will be live tonight. It's going to be later tonight. Think around 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock subscriber-only show on TikTok. So if you want fantasy football advice, subscriber-only show on TikTok. That's going to be 10 p.m. East Coast time. Subscriber-only show with Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok. And until then, hope you had a lot of fun talking fantasy football with us, some sports betting. If you missed any of our baseball picks, all of our baseball picks have been made. They're available for free. I give away all of my picks for free. You could follow them. You could fade them. That's up to you, but our picks are free. DM me on Instagram. Butt Fumble Sports on Instagram. DM me on Instagram to get every bet that I make every single day for free. Never behind a paywall. I never charge for them because that's stupid. They should be available for free, and you guys can decide whether you want to follow them or fade them. So, DM me on Instagram if you want to get my picks for free. That's Butt Fumble Sports. DM me on Instagram. And otherwise, I will see my TikTok subscribers at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. TikTok subscribers, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Subscriber-only show for fantasy football conversation. Until 10 p.m., hope you have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the baseball action that's going to be going on. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys at 10 p.m. tonight, okay? Goodbye, everybody.